It's safe to say crews have searched just about everywhere for the autistic teen within a 5-mile radius of the home and have found nothing. But one thing they did not search is the garbage, and that is why Sumner County deputies and Kentucky State Police spent the day searching a landfill in White Plains, Kentucky. Why there? Well, News Channel 5 has learned that trash in the Stafford Court neighborhood is picked up every Monday between 5 and 6 a.m., and it was sent to that landfill. So all the trash from the neighborhood dumpsters, including the trash bin at Sebastian's home, was picked up and gone before the teen was even reported missing. Officers are digging through trash and the landfill looking for any clues. They don't know what they'll find, but say the search is part of leaving no stone unturned. There's the possibility some evidence was disposed of in the trash. In the meantime, authorities were back at the family house today in the backyard appearing to take photographs. No one is giving up on the search effort for Sebastian, but at the same time, authorities appear to be moving forward with a possible criminal investigation. They have named no suspects, and detectives say that Sebastian's family has been cooperative. As this investigation continues to evolve, authorities are still going through security camera video obtained from homes in this neighborhood, and they do continue to depend on tips from the public. In Sumner County, Nick Beres, News Channel 5.
Nick, thank you. Anyone with information about this case is asked to call 1-800-TBI-FIND.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. This is going to be really quick. So for those of you who do not know, this is about missing teenager Sebastian Rogers. Sebastian Rogers was last seen on February 25th and was reported missing on the morning of February 26, 2024. Sebastian is 16 years old and is diagnosed with autism. Now, I know it's no secret. Everyone knows that there was a landfill search conducted during this investigation. However, I think a lot of people jump to the wrong assumptions when it comes to landfill searches. Everyone, or most people, automatically assume that if a landfill is being searched, that means that there was a deceased individual within the landfill. But those aren't the only kinds of searches that are done in regards to landfill searches. Now, foul play, whether it is or is not suspected, doesn't mean unaliving an individual. It could mean any type of malicious intent or activity, i.e. discarding of evidence, hiding anything. Foul play does not automatically mean unaliving someone, although that's the conclusion that a lot of individuals will jump to. Now, I want to be crystal clear on a couple things. I do not believe that Katie and Chris Proudfoot unalive Sebastian. I've never thought that, and I don't believe that at all. And obviously, I know Seth Rogers had absolutely nothing to do with his son's disappearance because Seth Rogers wasn't even there. Seth Rogers was at work, accounted for, and until I hear otherwise from law enforcement, I'm going to believe that's where he was at. And the same goes for the stepfather, Christopher Proudfoot. He put out that he was at work, and unless I hear otherwise from law enforcement, I'm gonna believe that's where he was. We won't know anything until law enforcement comes up with official statements on locations and alibis, so I think it's best that we all stop the speculation. The only thing we do know for sure is that Katie Proudfoot, Sebastian's biological mother, was with Sebastian in the house the night he went missing. Again, I am not at all saying that Katie did anything nefarious to Sebastian. I'm just merely stating the facts that we know. Chris was at work, Seth was at work, and Katie was home with Sebastian the night he went missing. Those are the facts as we see them. Now, I am not a SAR, search and rescue individual. My certifications come through either agencies that back law enforcement or federal agencies or state agencies, so I cannot speak to SAR. However, it wasn't a SAR organization that got the search warrant for this. It was the Kentucky State Police, actually, and I have the sources for that. One thing that stood out to me in particular was during this landfill search was the use of the excavators and the backhoes and everything. For me personally, if I was looking for a cadaver or I had reasonable suspicion to believe that there was a deceased individual in a landfill, I would not be using this heavy-duty equipment to search for a deceased individual. Landfill searches are very extensive. There's a lot that goes into them. And as the one canine handler did mention on the Nancy Grace podcast, which is no longer posted, he did mention that cadaver canines in particular are going to be hitting on every band-aid. They're going to be finding bones out there, so you need to collect everything. Band-aids, tampons, wraps from wounds, you name it. You want to pull everything that the dogs hit on because you honestly don't know where that's from. It could be considered evidence. It could be from another individual. Landfill searches are very extensive, which is why a lot of teams use the conveyor belt method when doing searches. But I don't believe that cadaver dogs were the main reason for going to this landfill. I believe it was in regards to something else, i.e. electronics or evidence. Now I'm going to play for you a excerpt from my call with Chris Proudfoot, who is Sebastian's stepfather, and I want you to pay very, very close attention to some of the things that he says here.
I mean, that PI, Heather, okay, showed up to my house when we weren't home.
What?
And walks on the property. There's 4 signs all around my property. No trespassing. The one in the front yard does state, no trespassing. Violators will be prosecuted.
Right.
She decides to get out of her car.
Oh,
she
God.
has an encounter with 3 of my neighbors. Walks around my entire house taking pictures and a video.
Oh, what the fuck?
Oh, yeah.
No. What the fuck?
Oh, yeah. And then she says, well, I wasn't on your property. Well, hold on. She shows up a day or two later to my house. Walks up to the front porch. Doesn't ring the doorbell. If she did, no, well, it never rang because we didn't have one. So.
Right.
But my wife's boss and another coworker in the house, and we are upgrading our security system.
Yeah.
But she said.
Now, I have heard so much back and forth, just speculation on whether or not cameras did exist inside the house between, I believe there was an interview with Nina where she said that she said to Chris, you have cameras in your house. I've also heard somewhere that Chris's cameras was watching what Sebastian would sneak and eat in the middle of the night. I don't know if these are even true, either one of these claims. However, I just thought that statement was weird when he kind of laughed and backtracked with the doorbell statement. I just thought that was odd. And then the upgrading the security system. So these are 3 scenarios that could come from the term upgrading the security system. Again, these are all speculation in my opinion. I'm not saying these are 100% accurate and true, but these are just some ideas to put forth in your head, which leads to my theory about the landfill search. So I know there was speculation about the quote-unquote 2 different landfills that were searched, so this could be where the confusion stems from, because it looks like the trash was taken to a transfer station, which is, I'm assuming, an entirely separate landfill area, and then taken to there it was dumped. Now here I have highlighted the organizations that were there for the landfill search, and here they do mention canines. Now, me as a nationally certified canine handler, I'm going to admit I initially thought, hey, perhaps cadaver canines only were utilized for this. However, after looking into the Kentucky State Police, I discovered they have a whole another different type of canine there also, and that is the electronic device canines. And I'm going to show you a picture of a couple of them here. Kentucky State Police does have 5 of these as of when this article was published. They may have some new additions now, but I just find that interesting. And again, all in my opinion, everything that's been weird with this whole thing with the security system and the lights and whatnot, and my conversation with him, it just, some things for food for thought, some things to think about. Now, we do know that a search warrant was obtained based off of what we've been told by the Kentucky State Police spokesperson. I found this interesting. In order for an electronic search canine to be deployed, as we call them in the canine world, you have to have a search warrant to deploy an electronic search canine. So I just thought that was kind of interesting that this was the department. Yes, it was in Kentucky, but I mean, another federal organization could have gotten that warrant. I just found it interesting that the Kentucky State Police got it, and they just happened to have 5 electronic search canines. I don't know, I found that really interesting. And for those of you who don't know, it was an electronic search canine who took down the infamous Jared from Subway. So, yeah. Mr. $5 foot long, taken down by a canine. That's why canines lead the way. Now I'm gonna say this. So the Global Protection Canine Agency does train their electronic canines to search for lithium batteries. And want to take a guess on what kind of batteries that Ring cameras use? Lithium-ion batteries. So as you can see here, this is just, you can go to the Ring website and look up the components for each of the cameras and the doorbells and whatnot. And then also I found this interesting here. Lithium-ion batteries are supposed to be disposed of in a completely separate location, not with regular trash. So to me, I don't know, it just seems more plausible for an electronic service canine to go looking for a landfill for something that's not supposed to be there. I mean, you're not supposed to throw away your lithium batteries with regular trash. Again, I mentioned earlier the kind of struggles with cadaver canines, hitting on band-aids and bandages and pads and tampons and whatever have you with bodily fluids on them. That's going to be a lot. Electronic service detection canines, that's pretty not many people are throwing away their lithium-ion batteries to landfill. At least I certainly hope not. Oh, and just for purposes of showing this is actually accurate, so here is our Ring stick-up camera, which is lithium-ion battery, and I'm gonna put it out here for Canine Gator to find. As you can tell, I walked out the back door, threw it in the grass, covered it up, it sat there for about 20 to 30 minutes, and then I took Canine Gator out the front door and walked around the side. And before anyone says, oh, he just walked right over to it, no, watch as he works. He's actually using his nose, he's sniffing on the ground, and then he takes me right over to it. I intentionally stayed back from him on a long line, and after he went over to the area, I kept walking forward as if to say, okay, buddy, let's keep going, but nope, he sniffed, he turned, he looked right at me, walked over, and that's where it was. Again, just a reminder, everything in this video is my opinion and just pointing out a couple of things that I noticed. And for those people who want to come out and say, oh my god, I can't believe you recorded. Well, first of all, this recording took place right after the Web Sleuths interview. We all saw that one. I wasn't sure this was going to go, and I was not in the state of Pennsylvania when I did this recording. Contrary to popular belief, I am allowed to travel outside my state to go do training events and conduct activities with my canines, so there's that. Again, Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, last seen on February 25th, 2024, was reported missing the morning of February 26th, 2024. Please share his poster out there and keep up the awareness. I believe he is going to be on America's Most Wanted, where there's going to be a show special on his disappearance, so please be sure to tune into that Monday, April 28th. Thank you so much, and have a good night, everybody.